Hi everyone! So, here I am with another video I've been thinking about since December when I made my cloud overview, and it's basically the part where I am talking about building allies or teams around a specific character. Back then, I wanted to make more of it, but I was mostly trying to figure out if it was needed or not on the global side of Opera Omnia, but I never got a specific answer to that, and I never really went through with it because of how much of an overlap some of the parts I was thinking for it, with the rest of the content creators we on our community do anyway. But I compromised with that design, and I am basically going to talk about more on the team building aspect of a character rather than their kit. So I hope this one works out. I really like making videos like these. So anyway, here we go. This is Onion Knight's team up time. Let's go over the strengths and limitations of this character. So Onion Knight is basically a stance-based character that doesn't lose his stacks even after he gets dispelled. And reaching the 3-stack mark basically gives a permanent party attack aura for the whole fight. So now let's get to his skills. His skill 1 is Blizzard Combo, a single target ice magic attack, which eventually at full stacks deals splash damage. His skill 2 is Multi-Hit, a single target melee attack, which basically becomes stronger at max stacks. And it also gives him his generic attack and max brave up. In most experiences, this jumps his turns up a lot. Now for his EX, there are 2 types depending on what stance you're in, which is basically Meteorite and or Blade Torrent, which is either a full AoE magic attack or a 2 HP dump single target attack. His C65 is a party Blizzard enchant, which also gives a party attack up, and that's pretty much it. His LD, his Sword and Sorcery, which is a single target plus HP melee attack, followed by an AoE magic attack which split HP damage. It gives the party an additional max brave aura, and basically boosts Onion Knight's stats through the roof. It also notes here that any new buffs he gives himself will last much longer, so that is his S2 or EX. But of course the main utility lies in that his LD turn warps the entire team, not him though, and gives them a free skill use of their skill 1, skill 2, or C65. So his burst is based on his stance again, which is either ninjutsu or spellbook. Whichever one you pick will give a brave and HP damage up, overflow up, and either magic attack or physical attack depending on what you do. As for the attack, it's very similar to how his EX functions. Magic is AoE, magic is AoE, and melee is double HP dump. So for Onion Knight's strengths, he is a versatile attacker with physical and magic attack in his kit. He can enchant the party with his C65, 2 times total. More if you use his LD free skill use on it, which usually is the case. He has turn warping on demand, which in turn also increases the overall skill usage of the team. His burst effect is very powerful. His stacks and by extension, party attack will never go away unless dispelled. His overhead buff is amazing. And it's a bit of a strength and a limitation at the same time, but he only has 1 debuff slot occupied, which is his Ice Imperil. So for limitations, his mostly single target kit might limit his potential to Brave Shave the enemy, since they're kind of low hit. And the fact that if you do need to AoE shave the enemy, you're going to have to rely on his EX. And his LD, which is it's wasteful, and 2 for his EX in this case, it might not always be ready. Next, the limitation of turn warping in itself is that it jumps the team turns forward, which may not play well on the EX charge rate of some characters, such as Gladio or Guy or Vincent actually. Along with this is the LD turn warp leaves you open to the possibility of taking double enemy turns because the LD turn warp doesn't compensate your allies turn warping up. And lastly, since Onion Knight has 2 generic and 2 frame buffs, it's still kind of limits who you can bring with him, but not so bad. So, now we get to the brunt of the video, which is what kind of allies can you bring with Onion Knight that can maximize their strengths or compensate the limitations of Onion Knight. So, Onion Knight overall is a offensive support with utility, so fitting him around people is easy, like really easy. You could bring almost anyone with him and it would work out fairly okay. So from this point on, it's more of a matter of who benefits from him more, or rather who can maximize being teamed up with Onion Knight. So the first one is credits to the Tonberry Troop for creating this node, is that allies that have an additional ability or C65 that restores a skill use, such as Arciela, Penelo, Kuja, the Mid-Italian, and Squall, since it basically gives them more room to skill spam throughout the fight. I'd also like to add characters like Kais and Fran. Despite being only one skill use, so it's almost pointless for them to do it, I'd also want to make the point that using their additional ability for the free skill use also gives a small aura, as little as it may be. So the next category of allies that work well with Onion Knight are characters that have really strong skills that you'd want as many uses of as possible throughout a fight. So if we're looking at his banner mates, characters like Saz's skill 2, the attack boost, or Snow's steel guard are skills that you'd always want up and as many uses as possible throughout a fight. If we're looking outside the banners, characters like Ultimecia, her Hell Judgment, despite having a free use after she does her EX, you'll still want as many of them as possible. Warrior of Light's shields are actually really good. I know they have 10 uses, but you will burn through a lot of Warrior of Light's skill uses. So the more he has of it, the better. And actually a really nice contender that people overlook is Vincent again. So basically, Vincent also holds a spot in here because his skill 1 and skill 2 are so crippling as debuffs, and how he just burns through them really quickly. In particular, I'd like to focus more on his skill 2 because the attack down only lasts for 2 turns, and then the more uses you have of this, the better. The next category that Onion Knight can help with are characters that are inherently slow, but the stipulation is once you warp them in for an emergency or something, they should have something in their kit that can compensate them turn jumping up that far. So there are 2 characters that I can think of that can do this. So these 2 are Cloud and Raijin. Actually, I'd argue Noctis could probably fit into this as well. But anyway, why these 2? Cloud can basically function even on any free skill use he does. So what I like to do is that Cloud can use his free skill use on the critical crush, and to compensate for the possibility of an enemy double turn, I use Blade Beam and send them back further. Raijin, on the other hand, you can use his C65 again with his free skill, and ideally have his Lightning Discharge ready, which will paralyze the enemies, which will kind of make you safe for one move. So, not the best, but the fact that he can do that is really good. And the 4th category is allies that slow the enemy down, since Onion Knight can be very fast when he goes into ninja stance. So characters that can lower speed are really helpful. So you can bring Arciela again, Kefka. Kurosame is actually a nice one because he can also make it easier for Onion Knight to upkeep his Ice Imperil. So the next part is what kind of allies can compensate for their said limitations. So for Onion Knight being a very limited Brave Shaver, you would want to compensate for that by bringing bigger damage dealers. The most prominent one I can think of, which is the upcoming character, Theodore, which is coming in a few days. And currently, from what we have, the characters I've already stated, like Cloud, Ultimecia, and if his rework pushes through, Squall could really put in work with Onion Knight. Next is healers and tanks are definitely good for compensating Onion Knight's purely offensive kit. So you can use the standard ones like Gladio, Warrior of Light, Guy, Celis is a really good upcoming one, who also deals ice damage, so they can play off each other very well. The only issue with Celis I have is if the enemy is anything not magic, you're basically kind of limited in using her. Not with her LD though. I do believe her LD does make her more versatile, but she's still like oriented towards eating up magic attacks. Next is, I talked about it earlier, that Onion Knight's lack of debuffs outside his own Imperil. It can open the window to a lot of strong debuffers like Kefka or X-Death to chime in and debilitate the enemies enough to not require a tank too much, but you may want to call in like a healer or another big damage dealer. It's up to you. So this next part is more of my theory crafting portion of the video. I've only made 2 teams so far, but I do like making more teams on the fly. So this whole theory crafting part of the video is basically teams I think might work as a cheese comp, or they just really work well with each other. So the first team I'd like to talk about is a bunch of turn warping shenanigan teams, such as Noctis paired with Onion Knight and Ignis. You can also mix in Jack in this equation, but Jack doesn't have as many Jack doesn't give the team as much turn warp as Noctis would, so I'm not as inclined to pick him. But basically the idea of the team is that you will be turn denying the enemy by turn warping again and again and again until they go down. Now the inherent flaw to this team is that they burn out really fast, but if the enemy requires a turn to raise the orb, you're basically not using this team either. So yeah, it's a very limited team, but it looks fun on paper. So I'd like to see someone be able to execute it in a future video. Next is Team Mystic Cold. I can't believe I named one of these. So it's basically Kurasame, Palom. Once his LD arrives, it'll be even more powerful. Onion Knight, and Celis. So what this team basically does is they are purely ice damage. Celis will serve as the tank and protector of the team. Onion Knight is like the party auras, which makes everyone stronger. And I know Kurasame is not the strongest attacker. That's why I prefer Palom for the attacker role, because once he gets his LD, he's actually really strong. Not like super broken strong, but he'll become a very powerful ice magic damage dealer. So, now we get to the last part of the video, which is what I like to call, does this character have a future? So where I go over JP Foresight benefits we have that might make Onion Knight better. So first is a new mechanic, such as BT+, which Onion Knight will be receiving because he already has a burst on him. He is expected to receive his Burst Plus down the line, which basically Burst Plus gives you an additional turn during the burst phase and a free C65-like use of your burst. Burst finisher, I mean. So that's basically going to make him that much stronger, and I'm hoping they give him a tuning pass once they get to that, because his kit at the moment on our global side is kind of dated for what JP has on theirs. So next is new characters or rework characters that might benefit from Onion Knight and his LD. Okay, to be honest, if we're going to look at it like that, anyone can benefit from Onion Knight's LD extra skill uses. But if we're going to be nitpicking about it, some of the more recent characters that came on the JP side would be Quistis, actually. Her rework is very powerful, and the fact that you can Onion Knight LD and give her another skill too. So the more she has of it, the better, because it's one of her most powerful parts of her kit. Of course, this is going to be on a delay composition, which might not always play in your favor depending on what the orb is. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The next character I'd like to think of is X-Death, actually. He is going to get another rework, and along with his burst. And basically what's going to happen is, I do know that his LD gives an additional skill use, but the more uses you have of his Almagest, which is his skill 2, the better. So basically the more The more times you can do that, the more damage output he's gonna have, because Alma just upon his rework deals HP dumps twice, I believe. Yes, 2 HP dumps. As for any other characters, I'm not too sure, but like I said, any other character can pair really well with Onion Knight anyway, so yeah, his future is pretty, like, solid. Anyway, that's pretty much it for the video. I hope you enjoyed this brief team building video I made of him. Leave a comment below if you have like other team ups that could work well with him. Also leave a comment if you enjoy this kind of thing, because I really do want to make more of these. And like, comment, subscribe, the usual stuff. Anyway, that's pretty much it. So, thanks for watching, and see you later. Bye-bye.